She said she wants more space. This question comes up all the time. What do women mean with the phrase, I need space, I want space?
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for joining us again today on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hello, Paige. Paige, today I want to return again to love and relationships after 50. And as we've been researching, what is out there being searched, some of the highest Google searches of what people are looking for when it comes to love, sex, and relationship advice. One thing that very much pertains to our male audience is the search, she said she wants more space. What the heck does that mean? And incidentally, one of our guests, and I'll link to his segment too, Steve Horstman, who has the platform just for men, he also said this question comes up all the time. So let's talk about that. What do women mean with the phrase, I need space, I want space?
Well, it could be a couple different meanings. If you're not going to come right out and say, I went out of this relationship, some people will say, I need space, I need a break. That's pretty clear cut, right? Then there's the other piece of women need space. And I think you brought this up off camera, Silka, when you were saying, the term I need space didn't start happening. It wasn't coined until the 70s. If you think about with the women's movement, so that's right around when it started to be talked about. And women nowadays are saying it more and more because you know what? It is not our responsibility to do and be everything. And we don't have to be everywhere and help everyone figure everything out, from your kids to your spouse to your significant other. Our roles and who we are we're stepping into who we've always wanted to be and who we are now. Look, I don't have to figure it all out for you. You've got a brain. You can figure out how to do stuff. You're actually okay by yourself figuring out this thing. I can take some space away and not have to do it all. That's one space. Another thing is, you know what? I don't need to be with you 24/7 a day. I have my own life. Inside of our life is our relationship. And that might mean I take classes. I go to yoga. I go to singing. I go on a girls' trip. That's right. Going on a girls' trip doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean, oh, that's not a good thing. It just means, remember all the decades men have been going on men trips? Well, girlfriends need girlfriends, and we go on trips too. Also needing spaces, you know what? There's times in the day when I want downtime. I want quiet time, or I want to either meditate or just be with me because, believe it or not, I like me and I love me and I want to spend time with me. So I'll take a pause there because I threw a lot of different things at you, Silka.
Well, a couple things. One is, yes, that the term started in the 70s, and that was really the transition where women really started working more. They weren't just stay-at-home housewives where the men went out. They had their space, and it was very defined gender roles. And as that started merging, that's when things got confused, and that's I think based on my conversation with Steve, we're men, and why they're Googling this, because they truly are. They are just confused by what it means. And I guess my question to you is it, well, the answer, I suppose it's no. The big concern is that the end of the relationship? And that's what they're struggling with. And then men start, they don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to deal with that. For our men listening, how would you advise them to deal with that? To understand us better?
So the first thing, if you're a man watching this, you have to ask, can you clarify and define what that means so I know where you are and I can honor and respect it and I know where I stand? That's a big thing. And as women, we have to also clarify and define, I need some space and this is what it looks like. This is why I need it. And maybe this is why it helps our relationship. Or if you're needing space is I want out, then for women, say it. Don't beat around the bush of I need space. If you want out of the relationship, say, you know what? We either need time apart or you're done. Because every time we get to the gray area, that's just what it is gray. So I wouldn't use the I want space if you want out of the relationship. Just say you want out of the relationship. Because I want space means so many other things, which I gave examples for. So clarify, define, explain why. So both people in a relationship are clear as to what is going on. Does that make sense, Silka?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I think in one of my conversations with Steve, he also said that what men tend, and I want to ask you this because you counsel men, that one of the biggest mistakes they make is instead of granting space is getting more, what am I trying to say? They do just the opposite.
Yes, I equate it to, I hear this often, I equate it to when you're a parent and you have a child and you could be in the other end of the home and you're on the phone. That kid knows that you're speaking to someone, so they come right up on you and want to know what you're doing. Yeah, it's almost like what I've seen. There's an insecurity with men when a woman says, I need space, and they're taking their independence. So this is where men have to step in and start to learn that, think about this. For decades, men took space without coining the term, I'm taking space, because it was a given. Men could go out, do this, do that. So it's changing in the world where men need to realize that, look, it's perfectly fine for women to have their space. It doesn't mean you have to micromanage them and be so fearful that you want to be like glue on their shoe. It gives you an opportunity as men to trust in your partner, to trust in the relationship. And what you're going to learn is if you trust in it and you give the space, when you give space, that woman has more downtime, is more enriched by other areas of having that space, and has more energy and more intimacy to be and come with you again. But if you're following them around like a kid following mommy around because they need constant attention, not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I can speak to that firsthand. It's interesting how you do everything we talk about. You can't help but relate to yourself. But at the end of my marriage, I tried to make it work, and but I needed space. He retired. He was at home all of a sudden 24/7, and I'm still working. I worked out of the house. I had my studio, my production company downstairs, and I literally could only leave the house without having to have a huge explanation if I went running. I often talk about I ran to my new life, and that kind of pressure didn't help. It did. It absolutely tore us apart.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because if you're a man watching this and your significant other is telling you this is what you're doing, you need to stop and look within yourself and figure out, what is your fear about? What does this trigger in you from the past? Because by the time you're our age, things have been triggered, like things have already happened like this. And you have to figure out what you need to do to begin to trust in what's going on. And maybe have more open communication, clear communication. But we all bring pieces to the relationship. So if, like, you were Silka's ex-husband and you were afraid and had to overpower or micromanage because of the fear, you have to get a handle on what's the fear about. That's your work in this. That's your one piece. And every situation is different, and there's going to be a variation to every situation of someone stating they need space.
Yeah. Well, I think for the purposes of this segment, and we're almost coming to the end here, I think what I'd like to leave with that just saying it, I need space, is not a threat, not necessarily. I would be concerned, because if she needs space, there is that why does she need, there is a why. So I don't blame men for being somewhat, not fearful perhaps, but anxious perhaps. When somebody says that to you, that doesn't mean you can't get to the bottom of it and fix it and come up better than before. Would you agree?
Yeah, and you always ask me closing thoughts, so I'm just going to say my closing thoughts now. So my closing thoughts are, one, you have to clarify what does I need space mean. So if you're a woman saying it, it's your responsibility to own those words, define it, clarify it, communicate it clearly to your significant other. If I mean I need space means, look, I still love you very much and I want to be in this relationship, but I need my time, and you as the male don't know how to give that, then that's your work to do. So just remember, you have to figure out what that term means within your relationship. And once it's defined and it's clear, then do the work or whatever you need to do to have that live and breathe without being strangled within a relationship.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you're a woman and you're using I need space to get out, don't go there. If you want to get out, own it, say it so it's clear.
Yeah.
Those are my last closing thoughts.
I agree with you 100%. And I will add a closing thought, and that is to women, and I talk to myself when I say this. Yeah, don't go there. Mean your words and communicate clearly. We don't do that enough, and we've done videos on that. So, yes, I don't blame men for being confused, and I don't know if this helped a little bit clear, to clear that up or not. If you have questions, please leave them for us. I know this is a hard topic. This is a hard topic. Some men will maybe appreciate it. Others will, this, the feminists. This is just reality. But please leave us your questions, leave us your comments, and we will continue to produce programming that's, that you're thinking about. So, Paige, we will see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye.
Bye-bye. If you have questions or a particular idea about a topic that you'd like to hear us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.